Hey, what's up everyone? Today we've got a brand new video, something I've never done before on this channel, and it's the first of what's called the Watch Me Work video series, where I break down and talk about the whole process of a certain project or goal, anything kind of like that I'm working on digitally or creatively. So today, for the first video, we're going to model this French press or something very similar to it. I'm going to go into Cinema 4D and I'm going to like literally create it from scratch, from a cylinder to this. So I realize that this video is a bit long. Still trying to figure out what the kind of format is that I'm going to do for this series. So because it's very long, I'm going to leave a bunch of time codes down in the description below of like each step, so you can kind of fast forward, or you could just leave it on and, you know, have something in the background while you're working. You can just glance on and see, or you could fast forward through. Basically like a live stream, just in pre-recorded video form. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. So as you can see here, I've got my reference. I've just taken a couple pictures with my phone. You see there's the bottom of the press device. This is sort of the image that we are going for. The press is gonna be inside the glass. And yeah, so I've taken these images just so that I have the device here, I have the press with me, but I want to be able to show you sort of what I'm talking about if I'm referencing a certain part. So we're going to probably start off with the glass, and then we're going to move on to probably the outside casing with the handle, and then we'll move in towards the plunge itself, which I have here from the side. I have the close-up up here, and then from the bottom. So naturally, this thing looks more like a cylinder. So let's bring a cylinder in. Now, normally I would measure out what the actual dimensions of this is. However, because I can't seem to find a single measuring tape on this entire ship, I'm going to just kind of eyeball it for now. Luckily, it's all on the computer, so I can change the size and scale whenever I want. So I'm going to start off with something a bit like this. Now this is a little tall, so I'm going to find that little dot there and shrink it down a little bit. Let's see, just looking at my reference here, I think it's actually a little bit taller than that. So I'm going to move it up a little bit more. And how tall are we looking right now? Height, let's make that 185. That makes it easy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it up 185 divided by 2, which you can do easily. 185 divided by 2. There we go. Now it's flat on the floor. Boom. So I'm actually going to use this cylinder for a couple different things. I'm going to start with the glass, but I'm also going to use it to model the outside cage and extrude the edges. So let's start off with the glass. So I'm going to use this as my reference cylinder. Sorry for that strange sound in the background. Not actually quite sure what that is, but the ships make all kinds of sounds. So hopefully we can just get past it. So this is the reference. IND. Oh my gosh, do I not know how to spell cylinder? Cylinder? Okay, cool. Well, sorry for my misspelling. Anyway. So here we go. And I want to try and keep this as parametric as I can, but let's create a copy. So I'm going to hold Control and click down, and we're going to call this the glass. So interesting thing about glass, and I know that I'm going to be rendering this with Octane, and so the way Octane handles glass is it has to be more than just one plane. It has to have like a full object. It needs to have depth to it, or thickness to it, as rather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let's see, I'm going to make this glass editable by hitting C, or you can click over here. And I'm going to hit I'm going to select polygons. I'm going to hit Control A, and I need to optimize it because in Cinema 4D R20, caps are not
welded together. So if I took this cap here, selected it, and moved it, it's not attached. Now in R21, this is fixed. Thank goodness. But I don't have R21 currently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift-C, type in optimize. I'm doing really good for spelling today, guys. And now, whenever I try to select the top, hit E and move up, it's connected for the most part. Oh, you can see my other references popping in through. Yeah, so there we go. So what I want to do now to add some thickness to this is I want to hit extrude inner. So extrude inner, that's MW on the keyboard. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a tiny bit of an inner extrude here. And then I'm going to hit D for the regular extrude tool, and I'm going to go down. And I can let go, and I can move in, and I can just hit E for the move, and just move this down until I hit the bottom. And now I just want to add a tiny bit of thickness to the bottom here. And there we go. So now we have our glass base, basically, which is really easy to do. Nothing has, nothing has sharp edges like this, so I'm going to have to bevel some of this. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to try hitting UL. I'm going to use a lot of shortcuts here because it makes it so much easier. I'm going to select that loop, this loop, and this loop. And I'm going to find the bevel tool. Not the bevel deformer, but the bevel tool. And what this does is I can add a bevel to any edge. It makes it really easy to add sort of specular reflections, rather. So if I do that, you'll see it starts adding a bevel there. Now, I do want to add a couple subdivisions to this. So let's add 2 subdivisions. I'm going to hit undo because when you hit enter over here, it automatically applies what's here. So I'm actually going to undo, but then I'm going to drag this out and see. There we go. Now we're getting some kind of a nice curve. That might not be enough. What we can do is throw this in a subdivision surface later on. So now you can see I have that, and then in the bottom, I have a little bit of that there. And I actually think I forgot to do this loop. So what you can do if you miss a loop, double click, and it'll automatically select a loop around the edge. And I'm going to add a little bit of a bevel there. Okay, so we've got our glass. In fact, I want to make this bevel a little bit bigger. Now that I look at my object, never lose sight of your reference, or you might find that you have something completely different at the end. The bottom actually dips upwards a little bit. So if I go back to my reference here, this is an app called PureRef. It's one word, and it's an amazingly useful piece of software. You can put all of your reference boards together. You can have it float on top of your screen at all times. I'm choosing not to do that. You can also put it on a second monitor. Okay, so now if we look, it might be really hard to see here, but the bottom actually dips upwards a little bit, kind of like, I guess I'm going to assume that's like a meniscus as property, like water kind of dips as surface tension increases. You can see the reflections here. It's moving upwards a little bit. So what I want to do is add the same thing here, and I'm going to do that by selecting the point and just moving this up a little bit. There we go. And there we go. There's our glass. We do need to add this little guy here. And I might choose to do that in a little bit. I think the next thing that I want to do is add the cage. And then I'm probably going to throw this in a subdivision surface and start modeling it that way. Let's take a look at how we're going to do the cage. And I want to take my reference cylinder here. And I want to hide my glass for a second. And if I want to approach creating this kind of outside thing, what I'm thinking about doing is subdividing the whole cylinder and then making a selection and then extruding this out. That's going to be my first attempt to sort of make this cage. So let's try it. I'm going to go to my reference cylinder here, which is still parametric. So I'm actually going to make a copy. I want to keep that parametric in case I need to change something. So let's call this cage. I'm going to hide our reference cylinder there. And if I hit NB, you can see the lines here. Let's add some height segments. Now, I'm not quite sure how many I'm going to need to add here. Let's see. That looks okay. Let's add a few more. And now, the tricky part is going to be creating this curve. I'm not quite sure how to do that yet, so we shall find out. I'm going to... Oh, what happened there? Where did my height segments go? Alright, well that was odd. I hit 3, that's why. I have to hit C to make this editable. Okay, so... let's go back to my orthographic view here. Let's pick here and here. This might not be exact, but we're not really going for exact accuracy. We're just looking for a representation of this picture here. Okay. So that's one of the lines. Let's try... how about here and here? Okay. It's a little thick, but I think we can change that later. Now, if I look at my orthographic view, I want to add a couple more to the side. Yeah, because it goes down here and here. I want to do the same on the other side. We'll go here and here. Oh, I just lost my selection. Undo twice. Hold Shift. There we go. Let's see, is that even? Even enough. I think I need to move it over a little bit more, actually. Yeah, we'll do one more. Shift click and Control click to deselect. I want to add in that loop again. Okay. That's looking close enough. Hopefully nobody's cringing here on how asymmetrical this might be, but that's not the point. The point is to do something quickly. And, okay, so now we've got a sort of a general representation. Let me deselect the extra polygons here. So I'm going to hold down Control. There we go. And Control. Great. Let's see, what else is extra? Okay, so it doesn't go completely all the way around, it just goes to these lines. So I'm going to deselect these polygons as well, holding Control. Nope, don't want to move. And there we go. I think we have a selection. It also goes underneath. So let's take a look at here. You can see it goes under here. That might be something that we can model after the fact, because it does connect. If I look at my reference. Here we go. It does connect at the bottom. We might have to do some extruding in later. But so what I'm thinking about doing here is right-clicking and say, looking for split. So now I've got a separate piece of geometry from this cage. So let me... I always get confused here as what I'm actually looking at. So this is the new... This is the cage now. So if I delete that... Yep. And we still have the glass. And now we have the cage. And to finish up this cage, let's bring the glass back. And we'll do that in a minute, actually. Kind of deciding on the fly what to do here. Let me just rename this cage again. Hide the glass. Okay, so now what I want to do is add some thickness to this. So I'm going to select all, hit D for extrude, and just give it a tiny bit. That should be just fine. Okay, so now we've got our kind of basic cage, and if I add the glass back in again, you can see it hugs it perfectly. And actually, nothing is quite so perfect. So what I'm going to do is hit T for scale. Just select the whole object and scale it up a tiny bit because I just want to add a little bit of space. Yep, right in between, right there. Okay, so things are going along pretty well. Now, I do want to try and tackle creating these curves right here. And I think the easiest way to do that, let's try some things. I'm going to select this edge, and I'm going to select the other edge as well on the opposite side. Hold Shift to select both. And let's see, how can we do this? Can't do chamfer because that's for splines. Maybe we could just do another bevel. So let's say yep, bevel. And voila, there you go. A perfect, oh, that's great. Okay, so now I'm going to add a couple more subdivisions. And if I look at mine, it really does encapsulate most of that. Let's add a little more subdivision. Let's try 6. That's better. Take up the whole thing there. Let's also take the edge here. There we go. Let's bevel this. Yep. Brilliant. And yep, these ones as well have a curve. Let's bevel that out, creating some interesting geometry there. There we go. And it looks like we have, oh, maybe I didn't select this one, so let's undo. Easy fix, hold Shift to select more, and there we go. Now we have our cage. Let's take a look at the bottom. So let's go back to our reference here. Yep, so we know it needs to cross in the middle, and there's a circle in the middle. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. What can I do? I could do some bullioning. I do want to kind of make this relatively simple. Let me go back to my reference cylinder, and I'm going to make a copy of that again. And I'm going to call this the bottom cage bottom. Hide the reference again. Make it editable. KL is loop path cut. I love this tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that I have a cylinder here. Because if I look at, it's quite small actually compared to everything else. This sort of cylindrical pie shape. So I'm going to move it to about here maybe. Good. And now I have this perfectly good set of polygons. Let me get out of this selection. Here. And here. Where's the other one? Here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to split these off. Delete. Okay, so let's see. Connect and delete. Did that do it? Well, I do need to add some more thickness to this, but I can do that in a minute. If I type the bridge tool, let's go to here. Yeah, I bet you that's what's going to do it. Hold out. Yeah, so I'll bridge this together, bridge this together. Yeah, that'll do it. We'll do that for the other side too. We'll do it for all the sides here. Very cool. And we still have one more side to go. So this is just kind of using all of the knowledge that I have so far with Cinema 4D. It's not quite... Oh, you know what? I forgot to put this circle in here. I'm going to undo. And if I have cage bottom, have I already split that? Have I split that off? Yes. I'm going to undo creating that split. And now, yep, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these again. Selection's already good. I love that Cinema 4D does that. It keeps your selection. Cool. I'm going to add this to the split. And I think I'm going to extrude it as well. I'm not quite sure about that yet. Not going to be perfect topology, but it'll get the job done. So, yep, I'll do split, right-click, split or UP, delete that original. This is now the cage bottom. I'm going to now, yeah, I'm not going to use the bridge. Well, right, I need to select both cage bottom and cage and do connect and delete. Okay, bridge tool, line mode, boom, connect these. I'm going to connect more. I really recommend learning how to navigate well in the viewport by using the number keys. I find that if you're using this all the time, it takes way too long to navigate around. So 3 to rotate around, 2 to zoom, 1 to pan. It just becomes natural after a while. Okay, so now they're connected. There's no thickness to this yet, and this is where I think we'll see if this is going to work. I'm going to take my selection tool, and I'm going to add thickness to both the connectors and these bottom polygons. See what happens here. I know that with a giant pole like this, it's hard to see what's going to happen when you do anything with any geometry with that many vertices coming together at once. Great. Okay. D to extrude. Let's have a nice look at what this is doing. Let's just add some thickness in. I realize this looks absolutely awful. I want to see how we can fix this. I think the solution might be adding a loop and connecting it there. Yeah, look at that. Ugh. Let's add caps and see what happens there. Create caps. And go down. Yep. Okay. I've got an idea. We'll see. We can make this look pretty in a minute. Yeah, because right now this looks like a mess. Oh, that doesn't have any caps either. Oh, goodness, Jeremy. All right. We're going to have to do a lot of fudging around. I'm going to turn the glass layer off. And I need to connect and create caps for all of these. So let's do that. So I need to close all of this geometry off. And it's really easy to do here, but I'm not quite sure how I'm going to be able to do it here. I could try to extrude this and delete the edges. I think that's what I'm going to do, just to make it easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take all of these edges and I think I'm just going to delete them and then extrude it again with caps just to make it so much easier. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to duplicate this just in case this goes horribly wrong. And let's go back to cage bottom 1. I'm going to hit delete. And then I'm going to select all of these accept the bottom. Yep, I'll accept the bottom. Here we go. Control. And deselect all of these. All of these. In fact, let me just use the rectangle selection tool. Boom. Deselect that. Deselect this. There's probably a quicker way to do this. I'm so sorry if I'm wasting your time. Let me just fast forward through this whole thing. So, this whole thing is deselected now. We're going to add thickness to here. And I'm going to create caps is on. Let's add thickness, and I'm going to reverse the normals. Let's see how it looks. That's looking pretty good. Reverse normals. I think that's okay. We're gonna connect these. So the reason why I did that was I'm gonna hit KL, and I'm going to put a cut right here, and I'm gonna join. Yeah, I'm gonna join these together to make it one piece. So what I'm gonna do then is, let's see. We could use the bridge tool. And if I take this polygon and drag it there, is that gonna work? Can I do that? I don't think so. All right, we'll just use edges then. So you'll see this goes here. I'm actually gonna delete this polygon, and also on the other side. And gonna connect everything together. And delete this polygon as well for that hole. So let's bridge with lines from here to here, from here to here, and the same on the other side. I'm going to do this for all three sides there. So actually I'm going to take the bottom there, bottom here. There we go. Okay, that's one of them done. Now let's do all the other ones. Save. Okay, so now we have our base. Now if we look at the base, we might have to get rid of this line. Let's see. Now it's a nice simple round. Okay, that was a sound effect. And there's many ways we can do that. I do have this extra line here. I might try to move that. Let's see if I go. Select here, select here. Just kind of, now I'm just fiddling with polygons at this point. Yeah, that could be fine. I just have to move it upwards. If that's the case, I'm going to do it all at the same time. I'm going to shift select these. And then just take the axis and move them up. And what's going on there? That's a weird falling angle. Let's just move it a little bit. Okay, there we go. We've got a base. Let's hit save. Okay, so now that we have our base, let's add the glass back in again. Very good. And because it dips upwards, we want to support the bottom of the glass. So let's select that piece. So I'm going to start a new selection here. And I'm going to get this whole section. Still not perfectly good at selections yet. You can grow selections and add and subtract selections, and there's definitely quick ways to go about it. Okay, so if I hit E, do I have anything else selected here? I do. What is that? I'll just get rid of that guy. Cool. Okay. Not sure where that came from. But alright, here we go. Let's move it up a tiny bit to support the bottom glass. I don't want it to move in too quickly. Okay, yeah, so if you notice that, let's move this up to where it's going to go, and then you notice how it's intersecting the glass here. That means we need to add some geometry to it. So if that's supporting it enough. Now you're not going to get too much of a close-up of this model, so it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Let's hide the glass again. What's happening here? Well, something really weird's happening here. What am I missing? I'm missing the whole top of the... That's what's happening. Let's get rid of the glass again. I forgot to select the top. So now if I move this, great, it's all one piece. Okay, moving this up so it hits the top of the glass. There we go. Boop. And now I'm going to hit UL or KL. I'm going to get this confused forever. And I'm just going to add... I wish there was a symmetrical way to do this. If I did symmetrical cut, what would that do? Yeah, no, okay. Just going to add... I know this is not perfect. This is literally just eyeballing it. But I'm going to take these, hit UL, just select these loops, holding shift, hit E, move them down. So we've got, so now I've got a little bit of a curve here to support that. And also, gonna add one here. Let's see, maybe I can move this whole thing down a little bit. I think I might just do the same thing here. Add another loop around. Yeah. Here. Here. Oop, did I miss? Yep. And there. Let's select those loops so they're not intersecting the glass. Hit E, move it down. This is going to be a very interesting looking French press. Okay, I think we finally have our cage. Let's take a look at it with some simple screen space, ambient occlusion. I've got some weird some weirdness happening here. Hoping that doesn't show up too much. I'm hoping when we add some reflections that doesn't happen. But here we are learning. Okay. So we've got our cage. We've got our glass. Now it's time to add a handle. Okay, so handles you can do in many, many different ways. I just kind of want to do it in the easiest, most simple way possible, in the most parametric way possible, and that is using a sweep and a spline, and let's do that. So I'm going to go into my side view. This looks like a side view. And let's get our pen tool. I just want to create a handle looking spline. Let's do that. It doesn't need to be too big. I realize that's very jagged. I'm going to fix that in a second. I'm going to bring it here. I'm going to edit it in a minute. Okay, hit escape to finish that off. Now if I click here and go, this is where I can use chamfer. Chamfer is such a great tool. Yeah, so if I do that, I think it's actually going to chamfer them all, which I don't want to do. I want to select just this point. Let's see, can I select a point? Yep. Chamfer. And I'll just really highly chamfer this one point. And I'm going to do the same for this one as well. Oh, undo. Yep. Hit return or enter. In point mode, I'm going to go click here, chamfer again, and just really chamfer this one out. Like, yeah. Oh gosh. Seems to undo it. Let's go again. Yep. So it's basically just one handle looking thing. Amazing. And now I can sweep this. I want to adjust these points a tiny bit though. I want to take this one. Make sure it's... Yeah, I want to take these 2 points and move it down a little bit. Maybe take this one and move it out a little bit. These ones, I'm going to move in a little. I'm looking at both of my views at the same time. I just think that maybe this curve goes out a little too far. So to fix that, I'm going to go to my pen tool and just change this. And I might end up chamfering this again to smooth it out. Yeah. Oh gosh, what happens? Nope, that's not right. Okay. Oop. Okay, so we've got a handle. Still not liking that. I'm going to, move this in a little more. This also has a nice, something I can move. Yep, let's move that in. I can just drag the whole thing. There we go. Just want to smooth out this. There's a spline smooth tool, which is incredible. Boom, smooth. Consider that smoothed. Is that a word? Awesome. I forgot about that tool. That's a great tool. Okay. Save. Let's get back into our 3D view. I'm going to first take a circle spline. It's a bit large. And I'm just going to take the top and bottom points. If I go into... If I hit C to make it parametric and just grab the top and bottom points, hit T, and only do the Y, the green one. I can just squish it down. If I look at my reference here, the handle is basically a flat shape like this. And because this is parametric, you can always edit this later. Let's get a sweep. And I'm going to sweep the circle across the spline. Now, I probably just did that wrong. I'm going to hit T and take down the size of the whole spline, going back into object mode. There we go. That looks... Wait a second, what's going on here? Did something happen to... Oh, something happened to my spline here. What I don't understand is where this line is coming from. I think I just deleted it. I'm going to delete that too. You hit Control and click on a point to delete the point. Okay, let's try this again. I'm going to unsolo. And I'm going to sweep this again. There we go. Now, I notice my spline's not quite reaching the end. So I'm going to select and just move it into the right place. Boom. That's probably intersecting, which means we're going to have to make some adjustments later on. That's alright. We will do that later. Okay. We have a handle. Alright, I'll hit save. And we're almost done with the base of our picture here. We just take a look at it from all angles. We've got the cage, we've got the bottom. Next step is going to be the plunge part of the press. Okay, so I'm just going to look at my reference here. So the plunge portion fits snugly in the press. We've got a nice, just kind of giving an outline here, we've got a nice tube that connects to another small tube, or maybe the same tube, just extruded a little bit. Then it has a base at the bottom, which has a filter, and then if we look here, so the top of the filter has these holes, and that can be done easily with a Boolean. And then we have a really cool coil thing, which I know exactly how to do that. That's going to be really fun. If you ever wondered how to do a kind of like a coil around a spline or something, you'll learn from this. At the bottom, we've got another section. So there's like a thin... this is the actual filter here. Sorry for how dirty that looks. I promise I clean my things. And then we have a bottom section here, which has a bunch of neat little bumps. We could probably do a volume-based mesh for this part. I'm curious to see. We'll mix a bunch of Cinema 4D things together. And then we have the top of the press, which has... You can't see very clearly from that. There we go. It has a section where the coffee comes through when you pour it out. So when you press through, nothing comes out then, but also you can pour it out here. And that reminds me, I need to add this little section too to the glass, which we will do when we start adding subdivision surfaces. So let's do a little bit of organizing. This is the handle. Yep. So there's our, I'm going to call this handle. A reference cylinder. I'm going to make a group. I'm going to select this, hit Alt G to put this into a null or a group. I'm going to call this reference. Because we also have cage bottom here, which is just another copy of that cage. I'm just going to put that in there too. And if I just keep this on, but then turn this whole thing off, everything in here is going to be turned off. Cool, we've got handle, cage bottom, glass. I actually need another copy of this reference cylinder, and I just need it for the bottom cap. So let's create a copy again. Keep all our measurements the same. Turn it on. And it doesn't matter which cap I use, but I think I'm just gonna I'll just solo this. Solo single. And B, I'm gonna make this editable by hitting C, selecting this, and then I'll go to select, invert, backspace. Now, something I haven't been doing actually, which I should be doing, whenever I do anything like that, like that's very specific to polygons or something, you should always optimize your object just to be safe. So I'm going to hit Control A to select all the polygons, Shift C to bring up the commander, which if you don't want to hit Shift C or you can't remember, the commander is just this icon up here. I'm going to hit Shift C anyway. It just appears right where your mouse is. For some reason right now it's not working. There we go. And optimize. Boom. So you can only optimize something when you have, polygons or something selected, at least as I'm currently aware. You can do it when you're selecting with lines. You can do it with points. Usually people do it with points because they'll leave like random points, especially when you're drawing splines. Okay, so we optimized everything. Now what I want to do is bring everything back. I'm going to turn this glass only half invisible. I'm going to use something called X-ray. So you select the object, go to the basic tab, choose X-ray. You can see through it now. Excellent. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to see how thick I need to make this bottom cylinder here. I'm going to take the, let's see, I'm going to name this plunger, for lack of a better name there. And I'm going to bring it up, and you can see it goes straight to the edge. And while it's supposed to do that, I'm actually going to cheat it a little bit and make it a tiny bit smaller. I'm just looking at my reference here. Do I have a good reference to show you? Yeah. So you see the coffee's supposed to, once the plunger comes down, the granules of the coffee are supposed to go down, but then the brewed coffee seeps through the filter. So I'm going to make it slightly smaller, add a tiny bit of thickness, and I might be doing this from the bottom up. I actually haven't really created a plan on how I want to do this. Let's see if we can do the bottom piece first. Okay, so we're going to start with this bottom plate, this part here, and this I think I can mostly do with Cinema 4D R20's volume builder, which is really, really cool because it allows you to model really neat things very easily, something that would take a lot more time if you're doing polygonal modeling or, just pushing and pulling things around and adding subdivisions. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to add some thickness to this. Yes, and I'm going to reverse the normals on this guy as well. So reverse normals. So I'm going to hit D to extrude. I'm going to add a tiny bit of thickness to this, because this is supposed to be a very small, thin piece of metal. Great. I'm actually going to take the whole thing. I'm going to hit T for scale, and I'm just going to make it like a tiny bit smaller so it's not quite up against that. Oh, actually, it's actually intersecting, so I need to make it a bit smaller. There we go. Great. And now that I've done that, I think I can hide everything else because I just need to focus on this one piece. So let's go to my plunger. I'm going to hit save. Single it out here. And now's where I kind of want to keep my reference up. Keep this in the corner of my screen here. So this is why PureRef is such an amazing piece of software. So we want to recreate this. Let's go in here, choose Volume Builder, and I'm going to put this plunger piece into the Volume Builder, and it looks like ridiculously low detail right now. That's because the voxel size, or volume-based pixels, are very large. So if I bring this down, you're going to see we get more and more resolution. I'm not quite sure how much resolution I'm going to give it right away. Maybe 1.4 for now. And you can see over here, we've got these cutouts, and they look like, let's see, we've got this circle, and we've got these things coming out of it. And then we also have this thing, which has something like that. I think if I do, maybe I can create this kind of shape first. Take a look at some of my primitives here. Get a cone, scale it down. If I go back and make this top radius, oh, that's interesting. Okay. If I rotate this, maybe, I'm just kind of playing around now and see what kind of shapes I can make with just primitives. And this is a great way to model too if you're stuck on something. Hit T. Should make this editable again. Squish it down. That's kind of looking like it. And then we can just bevel some of these edges out and make it round. Okay. What happens if I select? This is basically what I think 3D modeling is like. What if I do this? What if I do this? So I double click to select this loop, or you can hit UL. And I'm going to go Shift-C, bevel. Ah, look at that. The caps aren't welded together. So I'm going to select all by hitting Control-A, Shift-C for the commander, optimize, and go back to right where I started. Deselect everything. UL, select that. I think MS is bevel. Awesome. There we go. Bevel this out. Now I've got the rounded shape there. And what I also need to do now is, so I've got this rounded part here. It does need to go out a little bit. I could add a circle, or I could... Let's see if I hide my volume builder for a minute. Grab this point and move it up. No, that didn't quite do what I wanted. UL. Take that. Take that. And now I'm missing that middle point. Just want to round it off. And I might just be able to throw this in a subdivision surface so I can get that round shape. I'm really just trying to figure out if I do that, put it in a subdivision surface, make it really round. That didn't quite do what I wanted it to. If you hit Q, you can toggle on and off the subdivision surface. If I start removing loops while I have this on, interesting. Just kind of experimenting now to see what kind of shapes I can make. If I say dissolve, I actually think that's pretty close. Maybe one more. Dissolve. Oh, sorry for the weird angles here. I actually think that might be the shape I need. Alright, I'm going to save. And I need to bring my volume builder back. It's pretty close. I could move this up a little more. And also that point in the middle I know I have to move up as well. Volume builder, I'll hide that one more time. Back to point mode. It's still selected because it remembers my selection. Okay, that's close enough, I think. Okay, so now we have this shape. Once we have this shape, we can put it in a cloner. I'm going to select this object actually as a whole, hit T for scale, and just make it smaller and move it up. Because this is the whole shape, right? But we only really need this much of the shape to create the cutout that we need here. So let's put this inside a cloner. By default, it's going to do that. But what we really want it to do is put it into radial mode on the XZ plane. That has something to do with the actual object itself, if I rotate it. Yeah, actually, it did. If I rotate it 90 degrees, now they're all facing inwards. Okay. And I only need 4 of them. And they're going too far outwards, so let's bring them in with the radius. Cool. You only have an idea, and you're like, I wonder if that would work, and then it actually does work. That's really cool. Okay. I'm going to move them up, because I need them to be closer together some more. Actually, might just need to scale them a bit. Scale one of them. Scales them all. One scale. To roll them all. Okay, now I'm just being silly. Okay, hit E to move this up and down some more. I think the radius is actually still a little bit too far out, so let's bring that radius down. Down. Great. Fiddling with that. Cool, so now if I put this cloner in my volume builder and I tell it to subtract it, we should have the right shape. Pretty close. That's kind of what I'm asking for. It's not quite the big enough rounding that I was looking for, but I think it's the closest that I'm going to come to right now. I don't really want to fiddle with it too much. Find one more time. Really, this is just to quickly model something and kind of talk about it, my thoughts. Okay, let's decrease the voxel size a little. I'm curious what it's going to do. Yeah, okay. So now what I want to do is I want to basically add a torus and a couple cylinders, or capsules, which should be fairly easy to do. Let's go and add a torus. Immediately you need to scale this thing down, and I need to bring it up into view. Scale it out again a little. Need to make it thicker, so I'll increase the pipe radius, maybe not by that much. Let's do 2.5. Woo! 2.5. Okay. And I'll bring it down. Great. Now I want to add some capsules. Again, they come in huge because I'm working at a very small scale right now. Let's bring it to the right orientation. That's close. That's fine. Yeah, as long as it's sideways. And you can use the handles here for, you know, like radius and things like that. I'm just going to do that and eyeball it. And I think I'm just going to do the same kind of cloner trick. So I'm going to go here, cloner, drag in the capsule, that's a tough word, huh? I only need 4 of them. They're on the wrong plane again. Where did they go? There they are. And they're aligning again. So I think what I need to do is rotate. No. No, also no. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? I feel like it's a matter of, well, I definitely need to make it longer. I need to rotate them. But why aren't they rotating from the middle? What I could try is taking the axis of the original shape, like say the capsule here. I could go, and so I'm in axis mode and move, bring it to, well, first of all, I need to make this capsule editable and move the axis. Come on, C, okay, editable. Let's move the axis here. We're gonna start here, see what happens. And then rotate. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. That's 90 degrees. I'm still rotating the axis, but that just worked out, I guess. Okay. So let's move this cloner up a little bit so I can see what's going on. I'm gonna have to increase the radius, but let's do that. And let's increase it a little bit. So it just kind of comes out of the torus. Let's rotate the whole thing. Holding shift to do 40-degree angle. Well, it's actually not quite what that is, so let's just kind of eyeball it again. Okay, and now we're going to combine these two to create this shape. Now, unfortunately, I made them too long. So what I need to do is go back to the capsule, hit T for scale, and I need to shorten them and then decrease the radius. So let's fiddle around with this for a little bit. We're going to shorten it, and then we're going to shorten it again. Yep. Subtract the radius. That's pretty close. Bet you I could increase the size just a tiny bit. Again, I'm being too picky. That's something I'm learning about this, is I just need to... I'm just trying to get this done rather quickly. This video is going to be probably the longest watch me work video of them all, but it's the first one. Okay, let's combine this. Let's put these into the volume builder. And there we go. Look at that. We have our shape. That's pretty easy. Okay, so this piece is for the most part complete. So in order to mesh this thing out, we're going to probably have to work on the voxel size a little. But let's let me look at the reference again. If I look at this piece, it does kind of curve up a little bit. So if I look at it from the other side, let's see if I look at it from here. Yeah, you can see there's a lip here. And we can do that by adding a small cylinder to cut out from the bottom. So if I look at that, oh, that's true. It also doesn't show up on the bottom. It just shows up in there. This is great. I needed to do this. So I'm looking at this from a very weird angle. Save. Let's get another. Let's do cylinder. And all I really need to do is add the... You can't add fillet to cylinders, can you? Okay. I'm going to scale it down till it's just about the size that I need it to be. And then I'm going to weld. I'm going to make a C to make it editable. Weld everything together with optimize. Then I need to grab this edge and bevel it. MS, bevel. I think that should be good. That might be too much. Just bevel it a little bit. Okay. I'm going to move this downwards. Oh, the whole thing. Just by object mode. Move this downwards. So you can kind of see what we're doing now. I'm going to subtract this, yeah. So let's bring this into the volume builder. and subtract. So now you can see it's flat. That's pretty cool. And I actually need to move this some more. Oh, that's cool. You can do some cool cross-section stuff here. But it really needs to be flat on this side, and then there we go. There we go. Yep. And I think I can scale the cylinder radius a little. This is going to mess things up a little bit, but that's kind of just looking at the radius. And then bring it down for that lip to be a bit more fine. So fine. Okay. Now we have this piece. Let's put the volume mesher. Let's put the volume builder into the volume mesher. Let's see what we have. Okay, so the voxel size. Yeah, there we go. We need to adapt this threshold. If it was cutting it off before, let's just increase it a tiny bit. Add some thickness to it. Let's see what kind of a shape we can get. Hold on. N-A. N-A. To get rid of the lines. Okay, so it's still a bit of a mess. Still a bit pixelated. Let's see what happens if we smooth this out. If I go to volume builder, add a smooth layer, it's going to smooth it way too much. Let's just smooth it a tiny bit. The voxel distance is really too much. Okay, well, we tried that. Let's change the voxel size down to give it more control. Yeah, okay, I think that's what we're going to have to do. Cancel. I'm going to save because I know the more voxels you add, the more calculation it takes. Okay. Let's smooth it out a little. I think it's that one section. You know what we could also do? Let's get rid of the smooth layer. There's a smoothing deformer as well. Smoothing. There we go. Put it in the mesher. You can see that it actually is smoothing out a bit. Here we go. And we were able to build it with just a few simple shapes. So there you go. That's the bottom piece. So let's do some cleanup here. We've got our volume builder, smoothing volume mesher. This is the bottom plate, boom, of the plunger. So I'm actually going to grab, wow, tell it's getting late. I'm going to grab that and make a copy of it. So I have this plane back. And I'm actually going to center axis 2 so that the axis is now there. But see, it's facing downwards. And I think I'm going to want to reverse that. Because, well, let's see. This plate that I have right now is going to be this mesh. So, yeah. So the mesh that you see in between. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to accomplish that yet. But I do just want some geometry there, just so that the other thing can, these holes in this part can sandwich something. Yep. So the next part's actually going to be rather simple. Which is great because we want to get moving quickly. All right. So here's that sandwiched piece in the middle. I'm going to call this filter. And I'm actually just going to hide it. I'm probably going to have to move it up a little bit because it's probably intersecting with something. Let me just double check to make sure it's not. Let's just hit E. We'll move it up a little bit. Yeah, it was. It's very thick. So I'm going to hit T, and just on the y-axis, I'm just going to squash it down So it's something much more thin. And probably altogether make it a little bit smaller, because I kind of want it to fit in this lip. So now if I hit E to move and bring it down, it sits in this little lip. That's what I want. Great. So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hide this guy. And I'm actually just going to make another copy of him, because it's the perfect size. Let's look at our reference here. Now this piece, it's quite an interesting piece actually. It's got the holes and it's got a lip around the side. So if I look at my reference here, what do we got? This is the piece we're making with the holes, and it's actually connected. Did I take another? I don't think I have a better picture of this. So this is the best one I have, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can see it's got the holes, and then it has a bit of a lip to it. And then you have the coil that actually goes through that lip. So I think to do this, instead of having this be the kind of cylinder that it is, it has a top, middle, and bottom. I think I want to get rid of the top. So I'm going to deselect everything, grab this top, delete it. So now it has a lip. There's no thickness to it yet, but it has a bit of a small lip. And I'm just going to make that lip bigger. And I can probably stand to make the whole thing larger. I'm going to undo that. Hit T for scale and just make it bigger. T, yeah, make it bigger. So that it kind of flushes up with the rest of it. Great. Now I'm going to select this top. Hit spacebar to quickly get back to your selection tool. Backspace. Don't forget to save. And now I'm going to hit UL. Go back to my line mode. Select this loop. Hit D. And extrude it up. So now I have an even bigger lip. That's looking pretty good. And now I really just need to give the whole thing some thickness. So I'm going to select all of the polygons, hit D, make sure caps is on, and extrude it out a tiny bit. Boom. Okay. Amazing. Let's Boolean out these circles. So I'm going to name this... what's a good name for this? Top plate. And all I really need is a bunch of spheres. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hide everything else. Single this guy out here. And let's get a sphere. Hit T immediately. Scale this way down. If you notice, there's actually a couple different tiers of sizes of the holes. So I'm going to start with a sphere this big. Let's quickly move along here. Put it in a cloner. Radial. Let's get it on the right, and we'll put it in the cloner first. Get it on the right axis, and it shall never get right in the first try. Bring the radius down. Add a bunch of these. I don't really care how many there are. I'm not going for accuracy here. Bring them down. Spheres are fine. Cylinders are fine too. I just decided to use spheres. Looking good. You can also just easily change the radius of how much of a circle you're cutting out by using spheres instead of a cylinder. Okay, let's bring that count down. Great. And immediately, let's get that bool going. You could also do the volume builder, but I want to get this a bit more sharp, I think, and not worry about voxels or smoothing. So we're taking this cloner and we're subtracting this plate. A subtract B in this case. There you go, look at that. We've got our circles. Amazing. And all I need to do then is duplicate this cloner by, holding control and clicking and dragging. I'm going to bring the radius in. Now you'll notice what's happening here. We need to group these two cloners. Alt-G, because it's still A subtract B, not A subtract B subtract C in the hierarchy. I'm going to bring the radius in a tiny bit more, and then all I have to do inside this cloner is just hit T and just decrease the size of my sphere, or the object that's being cloned. And, oh, look at that typology. Oh, lovely. But you can see, yeah, that's what bools will get you. You can see we just easily did that. And I can even just hit R and take this cloner and rotate it. So we're getting that offset pattern, which you can do in the settings for the cloner, but I think this is easier. And then we're just going to do this one more time. So I'm going to take the cloner and decrease that radius again. You can see the bool's trying to calculate everything. I'm going to decrease the count. Actually, I'm going to end up increasing the count, but I need to make the sphere smaller. Much, much, much smaller. Yep. Radius down. This one's much closer to the middle pole, which we'll make in a minute, and just increase that count by a lot. And I think that we can make it even smaller. Hit save, and there we go. If you have trypophobia, I'm really sorry. Okay, and now I just need to add this bit here, which is just a cylinder. So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to turn solo off. So we've got all of our other pieces here. And we're looking at it upside down. Who knew? Okay, let's flip back up again. I've got completely turned around here. So what I'm going to have to do then is just flip these things over. Here's what I'll do. I will current state to object this volume builder, and I'm going to put that in my reference. Just turn it off. So here's my bottom plate now. Now it's just an object. I can just rotate it 180 degrees. Let's bring it back up. So that is now the bottom plate. Now I'm going to take the bool here, which is the top plate. I'm just going to rotate that now. Great. Boom. Add this guy up here. Let's make sure it's nice and set. That's good. And then the filter. Let's not forget this guy in the middle. In between the two. Intersecting. Great. Okay. Pretty complex geometry for such a simple little object, but that's what makes things look good when you render them out, with all the complexities. So now comes the fun part. We need to make the coil. Okay, so to make the coil, I'm gonna hide this guy. Like that. Okay. So the coil is actually pretty easy to do because Cinema 4D has a really cool primitive object spline called a helix. Let's create one of those now. Where was it? Right there. Okay, helix. And I'm going to put it on the correct, that's a good axis for now. And now we just need to make this whole thing smaller. Hit T, bring it down, hit E, and just move it over here for now. So there's our helix. I'm actually going to make it a little... Yeah, that's alright. Yeah, let's make it that big. And all we really have to do is put this guy in a cloner. So I'm going to go and cloner, helix. Now the cloner is automatically going to bring things back to the center over here. Linear is fine. We don't want to move it up 50 centimeters. We actually want to move it over. I think it's going to be this number right here. 4.551 centimeters. We're going to move it over on the Z or Z axis that much. And I'm actually going to solo this so we can see what we're doing. Look at that. It's continuous. And what's even more cool about this is you can add as many as you want. And there you go. It just continually goes and goes and goes. Now, there's probably another way to do this, but this is the one way I can think of it right off the top of my head. And I'm going to add a bunch. I actually don't know how many I need. And I'll show you why in a second. So I'm actually going to put this in my reference as my helix cloner. Because I'm going to make a copy and put that in my reference, disable it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring everything back, is I'm going to get a circle spline, and I'm going to put it on this axis. Haha, I got it right the first time. And I'm going to scale it down just so it's about the size it needs to be. Let's go down again. Bring it up here. And I'm going to use a spline warp deformer. I'm going to put that in that spline. No, I'm going to put it in my helix cloner, actually. So what I'm going to have to do, I wonder if I can make this parametric. Hold Alt G and put this in the same hierarchy. Oh, that'd be great if I could. Okay. I need to follow this circle spline. So if I go back to that spline warp and drag the circle spline into the spline property. Okay, so it's doing something. But let's try... Aha! Oh, good, I can keep it parametric. Amazing. So the Z plus axis is what it's following, which means I can add as many or as little splines as I want. Look at that. Okay. I think that's going to be about enough. That's enough there. Okay, so you can see it's following that spline. It's a little too big right now. So with it still being parametric, I can take this circle spline, which the cloner is now following. Let me really enable this. This is our helix group. And let me just make this spline smaller, and they're just going to follow suit, and that's awesome. I think I just need to play with these radius values. So I'm going to go down to, say, that one, and I'm going to make them the same for the start and end. So there we go. And now let's go back. I'm actually been too small. We'll fiddle with it and scale this back up again. So it just needs to go through the loop. Through the lip, sorry. And we'll move this circle up so that they follow up. Are they going through it? Yes, they are. Let's give this spline some thickness. So let's go to our helix. I think we just need to use another sweep. So I'm going to get a sweep here, and I'm going to sweep this helix with another circle. So let's make this circle. Already, I know that it needs to be extremely small. Let's scale it down already. Something weird I can already tell is happening. Okay. We just need to figure out what happened to the rest of our clones. If I turn off the sweep, the clones are all correct. Yeah, that's weird. Okay, I'm gonna increase this amount to like say 200 to see what happens. Yeah, how weird is that? That might have something to do with the fact that it's a cloner. So what I could do then is go back to my original plan of making this editable. So I'm actually going to go back, delete, well, I'll just add it to this. This is Calyx Cloner sweep. Put it in there. And then I'm going to disable it. Put it back in. Enable it. How many do I have? I think I had enough. And I'm just going to make this an editable object. Current state to object. Delete this version. Here we go. Wow. And I'm going to connect and delete all of these helixes. Connect, delete. Now I've got one sweep here. And the spline warp is now going to be a child of that. Do we have enough? It doesn't really look like it. But you get the idea of what's supposed to happen, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly find the right amount and just do the exact same thing. There we go. Okay, so the next step I want to do is add the cylinder in the middle. So if I go to my reference, we're making this middle cylinder part here. So let's get a cylinder. Let's scale it down. Bring it up. That's pretty close to the base size that I'm looking for. Yep. Let's hide the glass for a minute, so I keep selecting it. And move that up. It's a little too tall. We'll play this game for a minute. Cool. And if I look at my reference, does that look... Actually, it does go through the bottom a little bit. So let's do that. I'll bring this down here. Everything's connected, right? Make it taller. Yeah. If I look at my reference, it's not so far down. Yeah, that's good. Okay. It's got a bit of a rounded lip on it, so what I'm going to end up doing is probably beveling that out. But right now, what I'm going to do... I actually still think that's a bit too tall. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, details. Let's do the game. We will make this thing editable. Hit A. Optimize. Then I want to grab KL. And I need a thinner pole to extrude. I think that should be good. I just want to select this guy. Hit D, and extrude up a little bit, and then just hit E while I have those selected and just drag those up. Now, how high this needs to go is a great question because it needs to go to the top of the lid. I'm going to bring the glass back. Let's bring this up. Up, 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 up. That's okay. We can, we're going to add a piece on top of this later for the lid. But that looks pretty good, actually. And we're going to, so we need to start naming some of the stuff. Helix group. We're just going to call this, yep. I might as well put this in the helix group. Nope, because that's going to ruin everything. There we go. I'm going to group those together and just call this helix spring. That's a good name. Anyway, back to the cylinder. Cool, we've got the middle part, and now we just need to start working on the lid. Let's go to the reference. Okay, so now we're making this part here. And I don't know if I have anything. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see what I'm looking at, but that's okay. It just has a couple cylinders that connect the inside of it. So I'm just going to quickly do that. In fact, I can do that with the same piece of geometry. Which I don't know if I should do that. I'm going to. Okay. Really simple. I'm going to hit D to extrude. Extrude a small piece. And then I'm going to hit... Let's do a little more, actually. UL, select these, and just extrude these out. Then I'm going to take this top part and only select the top here. And extrude this out a little bit. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing, actually, so I think I'm going to do that. Hit D. And I'm actually going to hit UL. Select this bit, hit D. Yep. This disconnecting part. Then select the top again. And hit UL and shift. That'll make it easier actually to select these loops. D again. And that is the top of the lid connector, rather. So now I just need to create the lid. And the lid is going to come from that same reference. I think, well, should I do that? Yeah. Let's get that reference cylinder again. Trusty friend, and let's make a copy. Bring it up to the top. Enable this guy, and I just need the top. So this is a copy of that. Make it editable. Just grab this. Invert the selection. Delete. Perfect. And you can see I probably need to extend that up just a tiny bit more to get to the top of the lid. So let's go and grab that cylinder, and I'm just going to drag it up to the top here. Perfect. Make sure it's not intersecting. Good. Great. So this lid, it has a ring here, and it has a ring here. And if this is the top of the glass, we just need to extrude down a little bit for the intersection, and then extrude out so it covers the top of the whole French press. If we go to our different reference here, you notice this ring sits on top here, but this ring actually goes inside the glass a bit more. So we're going to take our top that we just renamed, hit UL, no, KL, did it again. And I want the inner part to start right about here. And we'll make it like this thick. Hit UL. And just bring it down by hitting D. And let's see how long do we want this to go. It's not long enough, so we'll just move it down a little bit. And then I need the top to be thicker. This whole top part. So I'm just going to select these loops. I need to make sure I'm only selecting I'm going to reverse the normals on this loop. You can see they're backwards. There we go. Add a little bit more thickness here. And then we just need to add a few more. So we're going to add a loop here at the top. And how big is that going to be? It's got to fit the pole. Because this actually is one piece that goes all the way through. So what I'm going to do is add a loop there, then select it. Okay, just deselect those, select this, hit D, extrude up. That's good. Actually, I could do MW, extrude inner, and make this easier for myself. In, then hit D again. Then MW, and I can actually go out this time. Hit D. Because I need this to be the part that you grab. And then MW again, we'll make it go much bigger. D and extrude that part up. Here we go. We've got, there you go, the part that you grab. That might be a bit small, so I might need to take the whole thing and just make sure I select everything here. I know I'm going to have issues. Good, and that part, is that everything? No, we need this part too. Let's get the proportions right, scale it up. That's fine. A little bit of dipping there. Just move it up a little. Cool. Yeah, I'd say that looks like a French press, don't you? Now, we're just missing a few extra pieces here, and that is this grating up here, and the front lip that you pour things out of. So that'll be the next step. So to create the grating, I'm thinking I want to do, we could do a couple things here. We can do a Boolean again. Basically doing the same concepts over and over again. So let's go into our top piece here. I think I'm just going to take a cloner and do this. So create a cube, make it really small. Move this piece up. Just want to get the right kind of scale. Make it really small. So, actually, doesn't matter how deep this goes. That's okay. I'm thinking, yeah, even like really, really small. Needs to be, that's too tall. How's that? That's okay. We can always adjust this as we go. Make it thinner. Small details always look really, really nice in 3D. That should be okay. That might actually be too thin. Let's make it just a tiny bit thicker. That's good. If I add a fillet, it's going to make it round, which I want, because nothing is completely flat or have a straight edge like that. And let's put this in our cloner. And let's make it move to the X, like, let's say 1 centimeter. And where'd it go? I lost it. Yeah, that's good. Move it up. Let's add a bunch of these. Let's make it 0.5. 0.8. Add a bunch more. Bunch more. Let's move it over. And it's never going to be straight on, especially after you use it, but we'll do the best we can. I'm going to add a few more. There's actually quite a bunch of these. Yeah, that's fine. Move it over. That looks rather good. Okay. And we need a bool. We're going to subtract this cloner from the top. Oh, did I break it? Don't do the opposite, maybe. A subtract B. That's union B. Let's do A without B. Yeah. Bring the top up first. There we go. And now I've got those little slits. Now I'm looking at them, and they are a bit small. If they're going to register from far away, I think I'm going to make them a bit bigger. So I'll take that cube, which is now all the way up here. And this is going to be a bit, oh boy, this is going to be a bit difficult. Okay, well, let me just do the numbers. Let's see, we'll make the X. Let's see if I happen to fit 2. That's better. Was that what I needed? Yeah, I think that's all I needed. A little subtle detail there. Great. Save. Let's rename this. So we've got the top, we've got the slits of the filter, we've got the top, and I'm going to call this top as well, because that is it. Now it's time for this glass part right here. We need to create something like this, and I think to do that I'm going to need to put the glass into a subdivision surface. Let's find out. So I'm actually going to create a copy of this just in case I mess things up, and I'll just disable it here, hide my reference, and I think I can actually turn X-ray off. I know, weird. And okay, let's solo the glass. And this whole section here, if I just grab the points, let's see what happens. That's my favorite phrase with 3D. Let's see what happens. If I just move it, this is why I think a subdivision surface is going to be helpful. So it's going to smooth all this out for me. I'm just going to move these points. So let's hold Shift. No, Shift is the wrong one. Alt. Press Alt. There we go. Oh, look how smooth that looks now. Great, and we can even add another subdivision. Cool. Hit Q to disable the subdivision surface. And we can play with this some more. Q again to preview what you're doing. I think that might just be all we need. We might just add another loop to tighten this up a little bit. Hit Q, KL, add a loop there. If I hit Q, the loop helps, keeps things good, but I don't think we need it that badly. I just want it to be a bit thicker now. So if I want to select this loop, UL, Q. There's a slide tool, and we can literally slide this up and down the geometry. It's pretty cool. If I hit Q, you can see what I'm doing. And I just think that if I, oh, there we go. Grab that point. I think I can make a difference. Oh, I know what's happening here. There's an inside to the glass. There we go. That's more like it. I wanted it to fold in on itself because that's what the glass is actually doing. Don't mind the weird geometry when you unsolo this. That looks very strange. I think that's fine. It gets the job done. Again, we're not going for full accuracy today. Okay, so now we have our lip. We have the lip. We have... Okay. Turn off solo. And I'm just going to rename this glass so that when I make things smaller you can still see it. And I'm just going to put on X-ray. There we go. There's our French press. We've still got an issue here with this intersecting, so let's fix that really quick. Let's go to the handle. I think what I'm going to end up doing is just making this editable and just moving the points around a little bit. So I'm going to make a copy, put it in my reference, turn it off. There's my handle. Let's say current state to object, delete, cap 1, cap 2. Yeah, if I move that around, that's not what I want. Let's get rid of this cap. I don't think I need it. And let's look at handle. And let's take these. Let's take this loop, UL, in line mode. Boom. I want to rotate it so that it's about, rotate it here, so it's pretty flat. And then I just want to take these loops and just kind of position them into place by hitting E, just moving it out a little bit so it doesn't intersect. Need to rotate this one a little more. There we go. Fiddle with it a little and just move it out. There we go. Oh, but yeah, okay. But then once we do that, we gotta fix them all. There we go. Handle complete. And there we go. I think we have our French press made. Now it's time to do a couple touch-ups, because when you render this, you'll notice that these edges are extremely hard. And that doesn't look realistic in the real. It just doesn't look like things in the real world. They don't have this hard of an edge. So for this cage, the cage bottom, or I guess it's just cage at this point. So let's just name it cage. I'm going to throw this into a subdivision surface as well, holding Alt. But you'll see it starts collapsing in on itself because there's not enough geometry for the subdivision algorithm to make this look normal. Look at that. So what I'm going to do, hit Q, hit KL. I'm going to select lines. I'm going to select the cage. And I'm going to actually use symmetrical cut. And I'm going to give this some extra support on the edges. So now if I hit Q, you'll notice it has enough geometry now to thin it out. Let me actually undo that. I think I need to give it just a little bit more room to fix itself up here. Q. How's that looking? Let's subdivide it another iteration here in the viewport. That's better. So you see we have that natural looking highlight instead of what was happening before right here where it's just kind of 3D. So how's that look across the board? Looks okay. Okay. Looking pretty good. Now comes the really fun part, because now we get to do some rendering. Now we get to one of my favorite parts here, and that is rendering this out to make it look like something really cool looking, more realistic, more than just a bunch of gray polygons in the shape of a French press. So I'm going to go into my Octane Work view mode, and let's just fire up the render the live viewer here. And here's what we've got. Now it looks look like a water pitcher because we don't have any transparency in our glass. So, but to do this, let's kind of create a small scene here. I want to create let's do a plane. And you'll notice that this is where the zero of the ground is, but because we went under 0 when we started modeling, it's actually getting a bit under there. Let's just move this down so it's sitting on top of it and not quite hovering in the air. There we go. That should be fine. Okay, and let's make this plane a bit bigger with, there we go, that. Yeah, that's fine. Great. So now we see some of our contact shadows. I actually think still we should move that down a little bit. Yeah. Cool. Let's get some transparency going. So we'll go to materials, specular material, and let's put that on our glass. Awesome. Now it looks a bit weird, and that's just because we don't have some settings done. But ooh, look how it adjusts with the curvature of the glass. That's cool. Just geeking out a little bit. Okay. If we go into the specular material and we go into fake shadows, let's enable that. You'll notice immediately it looks way better. Letting light come through, and it looks a bit more like glass. Let me quickly look what the index is of glass. Glass 1.5. Okay. So let's make this 1.5. Great. So we've got a very, 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 very clean piece of glass. In fact, I'm going to increase the roughness just a little bit. And let's see if that was really noticeable. About... That's too much. Yeah. Okay. Maybe 8. And we can make this any color we want, but the picture itself, like the cage, is a reflective material as well. So let's name this material glass. Let's go to materials here. We'll make it a glossy. Glossy? We can do metallic. Do metallic. Because it is metal. Put that on the cage subdivision surface. You'll see it's very shiny. Very shiny metal. In fact, let's give this something to really reflect off of. So we'll go to Objects, HDRI Environment. And let's load an HDRI. This one I just use by default all the time. It's really nice. It's a little blown out right now, actually. So I'm going to rotate this. Since we're kind of looking at it at this angle, I'm going to rotate the environment. Where is it? There it is. Hit E or R, rather. Just rotate it around. That looks cool. So our cage. So this is a metallic octane material, which means we can change the specular color. If I make this brighter, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. To make this kind of like a rose gold. Now, I'm not exactly a color expert here, so I'm just kind of fiddle with the specular until it gets to be something that looks kind of similar. It's just dark, so let's just brighten that up a bit. That's getting pretty close, actually. Let's keep that there before I mess anything up anymore. And I'm going to add some roughness to it. Just a tiny bit. Very cool. Very cool. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to add the same material to the top. Let's save this. I'm going to create some selection tags here. So I want this to be that material, and this, and this. Underneath, I want that to be there too. I don't want this lip to be that. I want this. And whoop. There you are. There you are. Great. I think that's everything for that part. So I'm going to go to select, set selection, to have that selection later. Instead, I can just drag this onto the selection, though. And there we go. Looking good. The specular's doing some really crazy things. And then the handle is more of a rough material. So let's go into materials. Let's create a glossy material. Now I know that. Let's just rename this gold, rose gold. But this one, we're going to make, what is it? More like a plastic, like a rough plastic? Just rubber, maybe? And I'm going to apply it to this object. And let's adjust this. Really what it's going to come down to is the diffuse color and the roughness. So let's make it darker. Let's take up that roughness a lot. Still a bit shiny, but yeah, that's better. And it's a bit darker than that, I think. Again, not going for complete accuracy. Cool. Now I need to add the metal to the bottom. So let's see. I'm looking at the model here, and okay, so this is all basically the same material, so it's just basically a brushed metal, or more like a rough metal in the case that I want to do today. So let's do materials, metallic. I'm going to call this rough metal. And let's apply it to a couple things here. I want the bottom plate, the filter, and the top plate. So we'll say bottom plate, filter, and the top plate. And let's also add it to the helix spring. And you'll notice it's actually quite hard to see through the glass. And that's because we're not letting a lot of light pass through the glass right now. If I hide the glass from the render view, that's what we're really getting. Super shiny, not the best. So let's go into that and crank up that roughness. Like really crank it. How high should I crank it? That's like super rough. Still kind of reflective. If I bring the glass back in, that's what we're getting. Okay, and oh, I forgot to add it to the cylinder, so let's add this material to the cylinder. There we go. How are we looking? Close. But this is not supposed to be glass. Let's hide the glass again. Ah, okay, this thing has a selection tag on it. It's the top, okay. And that is really a different material, and it's a plasticky black. So let's go to materials, glossy, black, plastic. Let's apply it to here. Undo. Yeah, let me apply it there, and then I'll apply this material to that selection tag. No, why didn't that work? Do I have to put it before? Yeah, okay, cool. And let's change it to black. Not fully black, because nothing is fully black. A bit black. And not as rough. I could go for exact IOR for plastic. That's okay. Great. And let's bring the glass back. And here we go. We're looking rather good. Not the best lighting to show this off in, but we started off with nothing, and now we have a French press. And it's looking rather good. And that's going to be a good digital prop for later. All right. Let's zoom in a little bit. Still very shiny. If I want to make this a bit more realistic, I want to add like some fingerprints, some grime. It's still rather perfect looking. That's okay. It's nice that I have a kitchen HDRI because it, it kind of looks like it belongs in here with everything else. Yeah, let's take a look on at this part. The small detail section looks really cool, you know, with these parts. You never actually see the bottom of it. Let's look at the bottom of that part. Oh, we're still going through the floor. Whoops. Let's hide that plane so we can see that bottom part that we worked on. That looks pretty cool. And yeah. Bring that plane back. There we go.
Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, or if you have any comments on this kind of format, or if you learned something, or if you want to know more about a particular technique or something that you saw in this video, please leave a comment down below, and also leave a like if you really like this video, and subscribe if you want to see more. All right, see you in the next video. Bye.